Horse Tales is proudly brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Agriculture. South Carolina, a true leader in the equine industry.
Folks, welcome to this week's show. You know, last week we had about safety. We couldn't get it all in one show. We brought Joe Mose back. Joe, will you give the folks an overview of what we covered last week in case you missed it? But it will be on the internet later, so you can catch it then, folks.
Well, sure, David. We talked about bending, how to get your horse to bend, one-range stops, and controlled catastrophe, which it works around preparation. That's the main key here, is preparing you and your horse. So it's preparation, preparation, preparation. So, and then today what we'll do is we'll kind of build on that a little bit, talk about rider position, seat position, and how to help lock yourself in that saddle a little bit if you do get out of position or have to go on and do one of these one-range stops or do a controlled catastrophe.
Folks, Joe was talking about preparation, preparation, preparation. Well, I was kind of needing preparation H last week because Joe said I was a pain in the butt. But folks, really we laughed about it last week at the show that I've still got a lot to learn. So I encourage you folks, watch these shows, learn a little bit, get out your comfort zone, and I promise you, you'll have more fun in the saddle. And as Joe's going to teach you in this show and upcoming shows, your horse will appreciate it. I'm living proof of that. Joe?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Horse Tales is being brought to you today by Nationwide Insurance. When the PD Cowboy rides, he rides with Nationwide on his side. By Southern Equine. Horse Tales is being brought to you today by Kingstree Auction Company, selling land and farm equipment. Call Alton Brown today at 843-382-2121. By Equestrian Images, making memories together. Folks, ride on into Dillon Meat Center in Dillon, South Carolina, and check out their full line of Carolina Fresh Foods poultry. Tell Douglas and Terry Wayne Jackson, the old PD Cowboy said, come by and take home a package of Carolina Fresh Foods. By the South Carolina Department of Agriculture, a leader in the equine industry.
To you by Morrell Tire Service, Latta, South Carolina. Folks, ride on down to Morrell Tire and let Richard and his professional staff treat you like family.
When you hear the name Earnhardt, you might not immediately think of farming. But my family's been at it for years, just like Nationwide Agribusiness. In fact, they're the #1 farm insurer in the nation. And with their On Your Side Farm Review, you get a personalized policy for your farm with the coverage you need at the right price for you. My family's trusted Nationwide for more than 30 years. To find out why, call your Nationwide Agribusiness agent today.
There once was a hungry road that wouldn't let drivers get very far. It wore out their tires, forcing them to buy new ones time and time again. Then along came the Michelin Man who proved the right tire changes everything. With long-lasting tires in place, those drivers were back on the road to saving money. Michelin Hydro Edge tires last up to 33,000 miles longer. Michelin, a better way forward.
Folks, the PD Cowboy rides for the brand, and my brand is Carolina Fresh Foods. We have a new product out on the range, so ride on into your local Piggly Wiggly or other fine retailer and ask for Carolina Fresh Premium Leg Quarter. And folks, if they don't have one in the corral, tell them to get cracking and call the old PD Cowboy and his elite posse of chicken wranglers. Carolina Fresh Foods, the name says it all. We are Freshalicious.
2014 is the year of the horse. South Carolina's horse industry is one of the best kept secrets in the state, with a huge economic impact. The thoroughbred racing industry alone is worth about $200 million in our state. We have dozens of training tracks in rural areas, in addition to the ones in Aiken and Camden. Horses provide jobs all over South Carolina. The South Carolina Department of Agriculture is working to promote your horses and your business.
Welcome back, folks. All right, Chief Joseph, what we doing today?
Okay, I want to talk to you a little bit about seat and seat position. Most people get really locked up in their seat and they get bracy. So, and you and I worked on that last time I was here a little bit. So I kind of want to share that a little bit with people. Then I also want to show you how pushing on your saddle horn is going to sit you down in your saddle and help you with that one rein stop and control catastrophe. Okay, David, now that we're mounted, this is what I'm looking for. You know, we worked on your seat and bracing this. If we lock our legs like you have been riding, we lose any ability to actually sit down on our horse. So why don't you kind of walk around so people can see how braced you are. Now folks, that locks his lower back, that locks his knees and his legs. He can't put his calf on his horse, he can't use his leg, and what's going to happen is he's going to drive his butt down in that horse's back, and that's going to haul his horse out. But the main thing is you're braced. Winston Churchill said, first, before we learn how to guide a horse, we have to learn how to move with a horse. So David, why don't you show folks, go ahead and pick your legs. I'll kind of demonstrate here. What you want is a straight line from your ear, through your shoulder, through your hip, through your ankle. So by doing that, I can make my butt the heaviest part of me as I'm riding. Now it loosens my feet and my legs up. Okay? So that's looking good. You're getting there. That is great. You'll find that as you make that your butt the heaviest part of you, you'll relax more so with your horse. Now,
not like this.
Not like that. Now, we had talked about the one rein stop and the controlled catastrophe last week. I think if anybody's watched cutting horses, they've all seen when that horse goes in the cutting pen, the rider drops his hand and he grabs onto that saddle horn. Do you know really what he's doing when he does that, Dave?
Praying?
Well, here's what happens. That guy is actually pushing on that saddle horn. So if we pull on the saddle horn, and you try that, it pulls your butt up out of the saddle, doesn't it? Yeah, it pulls you forward, it pulls your upper body forward. So if we're doing our one rein stop and we feel a little bit out of balance, if you can take your other hand and push on that saddle horn, it's going to lock you back down into that saddle and give you a little bit more feel, give you a little bit more security. But it's as you need it, when you need it. Don't hesitate to go to it, because that voice in the back of your head's going to say eventually, hey, I need to get off. And if you can push on that saddle horn, if you're riding a horse that wants to maybe get a little jumpy, a little bucky, that'll help lock your seat in.
Huh, okay, let me...
Go ahead and give it a try,
DP, yeah, DP's getting a little antsy here. He gets that from me, Joe.
So show everybody what happens when you pull. Yeah, that's what happens. That's it in a nutshell. If you pull, it pulls you up, forward. If you push, it sets you back down in your seat.
Folks, you need to really listen up. Joe's been working me a little bit. I didn't really realize how bad a rider I was until, you know, I really took it serious about that. And then safety is what drove me to wanting to be a better rider, folks. All right, Joe, what's next?
Well, from here, let's talk about some safety and how tack and different equipment that we can use on our horses, especially when we're trail riding. I've seen a lot of people, they'll use a standing tie down. Now,
Folks, excuse me a second. Let me get my horse a little moving here.
Get to his mind through moving his feet.
Yeah.
A lot of times we'll see people out on the trail riding, and they've got a standing tie down on their horse. There's a time and a place to use a standing tie down. If you're going to go in water, deep water, and you got a standing tie down on, that can drown your horse because he can't get his head up. A standing tie down on the trail can lead to a horse rearing over and going over on you, rearing up and falling completely over. You know, if we're having a problem with their head, we don't need a bigger bit, we don't need to use crutches, we need a bit more knowledge. We need to be able to teach our horse to put his head down when we pick up on the bridle. That's something we can talk about in another show. But think about if you need to use that stand and tie down on a regular basis, just take it off before you go across the stream or river or deep water. because that'll sure drown your horse in a heartbeat.
All right, Joe, we've covered a lot of safety issues while we own the horse. Let's talk about safety equipment. Maybe some things to do, not to do, some safety equipment or styles that you'd recommend.
Okay, well, maybe some things you can consider. I've seen on the trail that have caused people huge problems.
Folks, you see who's the camera hog. I got DP. He's a hog horse, and that's a camera hog. Go ahead, Joe.
You know, one of the things, and the most detrimental, you know, all equipment is good equipment, but depending on where and how it's used, I've seen people that have a standing tie down. That's when there's a nose band and it's tied directly to them. Out on a trail ride, they had to cross water. They got in a little trouble. The water was deeper than they expected, and the horse drowned. Horse drowned because they couldn't get their head back up. Out on the trail, you know, unless you really need that standing tie down, please take it off when you go across water. Or, you know, there's things that you can do to teach your horse how to get his head down without having to go to that standing tie down. And let me climb on Tough and I'll show you real quick.
That's right, Tough. I appreciate the job you're doing. We're going to have to send DP to timeout or send him up to Virginia for a little bit of training.
Well, that's horses, David. You never know what horse is going to show up. If we can teach our horse to put their head down when we pick up on the reins, there'll be no real need for a standing tie down. It's something we can cover in extent, a little more extensively later if you like. But it's just being able to pick them up and have that horse say yes. Then you won't need that standing tie down until you're in an arena or someplace where it's really appropriate to use it.
Right. Now that's a quick question I got. I know a lot of the guys with the roping horses or the bulldog, and I see with a tie down. So what is that purpose for the tie down in that performance horse?
Okay, in that performance horse, it's helping that horse balance.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's helping them balance and being able to keep themselves and brace in and help the rider accomplish the goal at hand. But out on the trail, the horse doesn't need that balance. He needs his head and neck for balance, to be able to move it and be free with it, to go up and down hills, to pick his head up or lower it as he needs to. So, you know, out on the trail, I don't always see a huge need for it. So all we need is a bit. We don't need a bigger bit or bigger, you know, mechanical devices to keep their heads down. We just need a bit more knowledge.
And like I say, folks, I see a lot of pictures, and you've probably seen me out swimming the horses. And I learned the hard way, don't be swimming them with wool saddle blankets. So, folks, if you're going to swim your horses, I suggest get out there and play with them bareback. What do you say, Jay?
Yeah, that'd be the way I'd go.
All right, Joe.
You know, there's another thing that I see, and it can cause a huge problem, is rear girth. A lot of people have rear girths and they use them, but they allow them to sit too far below the horse's belly.
Let me move around with DP so you can kind of show the folks will get a good angle there, okay?
See, that's really good. You know, if you don't need your rear girth, keep it up tight, keep it snug. I see a lot of people where they have it really draped down real low. What can happen is, especially on a trail riding situation, maybe your horse stumbles and has to pick himself up and they can get a hind foot stuck in that rear girth. The other thing that's really important is keeping that rear girth hobbled to the front girth so it can't swing back too far. Now this one's not too bad. You can see it does get back a little far. You might want to just tighten this up just a touch so that it does stay right in this area. But then when you're riding in the mountains or you're roping or doing anything else, go ahead and snug that rear girth up. Let it stay tight. It'll help balance your saddle so the back end won't flip forward. But I do see that quite a bit, that folks allow these things to drape down a little too far, and it'll get you in trouble in a heartbeat.
Folks, we just get warmed up here. When we get back, we have some good information. I just hear Joe chomping at the bit, pun intended.
Horse Tales is being brought to you today by Nationwide Insurance. When the PD Cowboy rides, he rides with Nationwide on his side. By Southern Equine Services, located in Aiken, South Carolina, Dr. Jamie Clark and his staff offers Aiken and surrounding area with full service equine veterinary practice, offering ambulatory and hospital services. Visit them online for all they offer to keep your horse healthy. Kinlaw Supermarket, the meat store, now proudly carrying a full line of Carolina Fresh Foods 3-pack fresh frozen chicken. right on into Kinlaw's until Travis and Tommy Kinlaw. You heard about them from the old PD Cowboy. And by Best Way Grocery, serving the Hemingway area with the best meats in the PD.
There once was a hungry road that wouldn't let drivers get very far. It wore out their tires, forcing them to buy new ones time and time again. Then along came the Michelin man who proved the right tire changes everything. With long-lasting tires in place, those drivers were back on the road to saving money. Michelin Hydro Edge tires last up to 33,000 miles longer. Michelin, a better way forward.
Folks, the PD Cowboy arrives for the brand, and my brand is Carolina Fresh Foods. We have a new product out on the range, so ride on into your local Piggly Wiggly or other fine retailer and ask for Carolina Fresh Premium Leg Quarter. And folks, if they don't have one in the corral, tell them to get cracking and call the old PD Cowboy and his elite posse of chicken wranglers. Carolina Fresh Foods, the name says it all. We are Freshalicious.
2014 is the year of the horse. South Carolina's horse industry is one of the best kept secrets in the state, with a huge economic impact. The thoroughbred racing industry alone is worth about $200 million in our state. We have dozens of training tracks in rural areas, in addition to the ones in Aiken and Camden. Horses provide jobs all over South Carolina. The South Carolina Department of Agriculture is working to promote your horses and your business.
When you hear the name Earnhardt, you might not immediately think of farming. But my family's been at it for years, just like Nationwide Agribusiness. In fact, they're the #1 farm insurer in the nation. And with their On Your Side Farm Review, you get a personalized policy for your farm with the coverage you need at the right price for you. My family's trusted Nationwide for more than 30 years. To find out why, call your Nationwide Agribusiness agent today.
Folks, welcome back to the show. This won't make it on the bloopers. We just had a little action here. DP was getting an attitude, so Joe was getting an attitude with me, and I was getting an attitude with him. Joe, I've enjoyed this, but I know a lot of people are really getting interested. Why don't you tell the folks right quick, how can they find you at one of your clinics?
Well, they sure can. They can go to our website, www.perfectpartnersequine.com, and they can find out all the information they need to get a hold of us. What we have on our website is our events list of things that are happening and coming up, and you can get a hold of us that way and let us know what you need or what you'd like us to do for you.
That's excellent, folks, and you can go back to some of our other episodes, and I know we had a Southern Eights Part 1 and 2. You really can kind of see what's going on behind the scenes, so to help make your decision. But folks, you really need, if you're serious about your riding, the safety of you as a rider and the comfort of your horse, a Perfect Partners Equine clinic, I'd recommend. All right, Joe, I see you, like I say, chomping that bit. Have at me, Joe.
I can't help it. This is just a pet peeve of mine. If you want to ride in a girth with a tongue on it, that tongue's made to go through these holes.
I didn't have enough holes, Joe.
Well, you can do several things. Here's what happens. That thing gets stuck out there and you can poke yourself really bad. Your horse slips and falls down, you poke your leg, or it's going to poke your horse. You know, if you want to ride with a saddle knot, cut that thing off, or buy one without a tongue on it. If you're going to ride, I like to ride with leather so I can put different holes in it. If you want to ride with nylon, all you got to do is get your little butane or a little propane torch and heat up a 16-penny nail and stick you some more holes in there, or just take you another wrap. That's going to hurt you or your horse eventually. More likely it's going to hurt you, David. So just take you one more wrap if you need to, because that's pretty light. It's thin. It's not going to get too far up underneath of your saddle there to cause you a problem.
And folks, I was concerned about it being a little bulky there.
It is, and the bulk can get in your way. What happens is as that builds up bulk, it stops your leg from swinging forward. See how this stirrup leather catches? Now with less bulk, you'll have more of a free swing so your leg can go forward or back. But that's what I'd recommend. So David, later on this evening, what we'll do is we'll take a little nail and we'll heat that thing up. We'll cut you some more holes in there. But in the meantime, that's the safer way to go.
You hit the nail on the head, Joe.
David, I got one more.
Ouch, where's my preparation age? Go ahead. Folks, like I said, I'm getting out my comfort zone. Have at it, Joe. If the PD Cowboy can improve, anybody can.
Hey, we all started somewhere. We all had to learn. I had to learn this myself the hard way. What you were doing earlier, you were holding those reins right. I mean, you didn't have any slack in those reins. What you're doing is you're pissing your horse off. Give him a little slack in those reins, allowing me to make him the mistake and then put him back where he needs to be. But the more you can trust your horse and allow him to stand and relax, the more he will, okay? So, but if we're always constantly feeling like we gotta hold them, we're just gonna make them madder and madder.
Joe, because I'm a high-octane drilling type guy, and my horses feel that, and I've had to really, folks, I have really had to concentrate on that. Calm down, Dave. It's transferring over to your horse.
Yes, it does. It does. Everything we feel, our horses feel. They are masters at reading us, our emotions, our spirit, what we have going on inside of us. There's some days where, you know, we all use horses for our pleasure and, you know, as an outlet, but there are days if, you know, life has just stressed us out too much, maybe that's not a good day to go work with your horse. Maybe that's a good day to go sit down and relax, because what we're going to do is feed it. Our horse is going to feed off of that and respond that way to us, so we won't have the best day with our horse. But it's our responsibility to give them everything that we can, because they didn't sign up for this program.
Thanks, Joe. Folks, he's easing up on me a little bit. Stay tuned. We got some more great horse tales for you.
Horse Tales is being brought to you by Perfect Partners Equine, a unique team approach to horse training.
Brought to you by Joy Lewis Performance Horses. For training, lessons, and boarding, see my good friend Joy Lewis down in Conway, South Carolina.
Brought to you by Booty Brothers Western Store in Florence, South Carolina, and Lumberton, North Carolina, carrying the largest inventory of cowboy and work boots. Right on into Booty Brothers and mention Horse Tales, and then with a $50 order, you'll get a koozie. And a $100 order gets you a Marsh tacky hat. And folks, supplies are limited. Right into one of 7 family-owned John Dro's Piggly Wigglies and ask for Carolina Fresh Foods 3-pack fresh frozen chicken products. Always consistent quality and value for you, our valued customers. Carolina Fresh Foods. We are Fresh Delicious.
There once was a hungry road that wouldn't let drivers get very far. It wore out their tires, forcing them to buy new ones time and time again. Then along came the Michelin Man, who proved the right tire changes everything. With long-lasting tires in place, those drivers were back on the road to saving money. Michelin Hydro Edge tires last up to 33,000 miles longer. Michelin, a better way forward.
Folks, the PD Cowboy arrives for the brand, and my brand is Carolina Fresh Foods. We have a new product out on the range. So right on into your local Piggly Wiggly or other fine retailer and ask for Carolina Fresh Premium Leg Quarters. And folks, if they don't have one in the corral, tell them to get cracking and call the old PD Cowboy and his elite posse of chicken wranglers. Carolina Fresh Foods, the name says it all. We are Fresh Delicious.
2014 is the year of the horse. The South Carolina Department of Agriculture is working to promote your horses and your business. We are working to open new areas for trail use and to let the public know how important horses are. South Carolina has world-class horses and horse people. From race horses to show horses, we have the best. The South Carolina Department of Agriculture, letting people know how important horses are.
When you hear the name Earnhardt, you might not immediately think of farming. But my family's been at it for years, just like Nationwide Agribusiness. In fact, they're the #1 farm insurer in the nation. And with their On Your Side Farm Review, you get a personalized policy for your farm with the coverage you need at the right price for you. My family's trusted Nationwide for more than 30 years. To find out why, call your Nationwide Agribusiness agent today.
Well, Joe, Wiley couldn't make it today. She was out trying to make a living. And I saved this one for last. You cinch and how tight you need to keep it. folks, Wiley Bell, good friend of mine and co-host, an excellent crack rider, she got in a bad wreck at the Fusky Island at the races. She was so caught up in the races, and the horse had run 3 or 4 heats, and the saddle slipped up underneath, and she got in a bad wreck, folks. So, Joe, from a professional point of view, help us out on that.
Okay. What I like to do, David, is when I first cinch up a horse, I'm not going to cinch him up all the way the very first time. I'm going to do it at least 3 steps.
Okay, 3.
Okay. So when I first cinch a horse up, and I allow them to kind of settle into that and warm up to it, they'll warm up to it. And maybe I might walk along, maybe I might take a few steps, then I'll check it again and cinch them up. Because what happens is, when you go to pull that saddle up the very first time, they've got a little air in their chest, they'll blow out. So then after I walk them a time or 2 or a few steps, I'll double check it again. Then I'll make sure everything's adjusted on my saddle. Then right before I step up, I'll pull it up one more time. So it's always 3 steps. That way you know you've gotten your saddle about as tight as you need to. Now if we want to look around here real quick again, I know DP's moved on us. This actually can use a little bit more tightening. See how loose I can get it? So I'd want it just a touch tighter. You can see how that saddle's going to roll off of his back. But if we get it just a touch tighter, that'll just firm it up and make it more secure for you. Give you a little better ride. Without being over tight. We don't want to cut them in 2. They need to feel comfortable just like we do.
Well, Joe, that was a cinch. It'll do in a pinch.
All
Thank
right.
you, Joe.
You bet.
Folks, just what a great day horsing around here with Joe Most. Joe, every time you come down here, I feel like I'll leave a better horseman, and I know my horses appreciate it. Let me just add right quick, Joe, we've already talked about once. How can folks get in touch with you about attending one of your great clinics?
Well, Dave, they can go to www.perfectpartnersequine.com, and they can find out all the information about our clinics, dates, times, schedules, and even if they want us to come to their place and do a clinic or do private lessons, they can get a hold of us through that website.
And folks, there is a better way. I don't care where you're at, a professional horseman or like me, a wannabe cowboy, you can improve. And I just challenge you, like I say, these past 2 shows, I've thought outside of the box and got some help. And old Joe kind of took it easy on me. And like folks, it's all about the horse. And I've said this before, because of the horse, my life has changed course. And folks, just thank you for the privilege of coming into your living room. I hope every Sunday morning you finding that TV turning and looking for horse tales on your favorite channel. And folks, until next week, keep your reins low and your hands quiet. And Joe, what you got to say to the folks?
You know, we all started somewhere, and we all always be humbled by the horse, and we should always do the best we can by him. But don't be afraid, just because we're professionals or we're doing something, we all started somewhere. We all had to learn from somebody else.
Don't be afraid to ask.
That's right.
Not a such thing as a done quick. And folks, God bless this great country. I'll see you next week.